Let's speak with John Rentoul, Chief Political Commentator at The Independent. John, good morning to you and Happy New Year.
Good morning, Ian. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to our Prime Minister.
Well, I was about to say, it's anything but a Happy New Year by the looks of things. I mean, he did give it all guns blazing in that little New Year's speech. He's talking about there being more money in people's pockets. Before we get into that, let's have a listen to what Mr Starmer had to say.
Things have been tough in Britain for a while. For many, life is still harder than it should be. You long for a bit more money in your pockets, a meal out, a holiday, the chance to make a special family moment extra special. In 2026, the choices we've made will mean more people will begin to feel positive change in your bills, your communities, and your health service.
Well, there it is. He's going to make everything better, John, apparently.
I'm afraid I didn't like it at all. Totally inauthentic. I don't know what he was trying to say. I mean, the one measure that really stood out for me in the budget was raising our taxes so that we can so that the government can subsidise our energy bills.
Yes.
By £150 a year. I mean, that is not going to make people better off. I mean, it should be completely obvious, but no, it's desperate stuff, and I think it tells you all you need to know that we start this year with the Prime Minister in effect being given a 50-50 chance of surviving to the end of the year by the
I think that's true, and it's interesting that even sort of left-leaning economists, if you like, would say to you, well, I don't think anyone is suggesting we're going to be better off. There's going to be more money in your pockets in the next 12 months. There's nothing in the mechanisms of the economic plan, either domestically or wider than that, that would suggest anyone's going to be better off. But Mr Starmer is standing there with a straight face on that video, saying the very opposite.
Yeah, I'm afraid people won't believe it until the economy turns around, and there's no real evidence that's going to happen. I mean, it could be. It would be a nice thing to have. Would be an unexpected spurt of growth on the upside. But I'm not sure that people can rely on that.
And of course, he has a mountain to climb this year. I mentioned, as you may have heard just after the news, the local elections are 17 weeks away. I mean, that when you put it like that, I mean, I'd imagine if anybody said that to Keir Starmer in Downing Street this morning, 17 weeks, Prime Minister, he'd probably drop down, bawling his eyes out. I mean, this is, it's very, very close. That's going to be a monumental moment. This is not like a few council elections. You've got the entirety of Wales and Scotland up for grabs. There's some high-profile mayoralties as well. This could be absolute carnage for this government.
It could be, although reform, Nigel Farage's reform has peaked in the opinion polls recently, and is sort of drifting down in popularity. So it may not be quite the carnage that we expect, but no, it's not going to be good. But then Labour MPs face a dilemma after that, because there's no obvious successor to Keir Starmer with an alternative programme who is likely to be able to do a better job. I mean, or a significantly better job, enough of a better job to justify the disruption of getting rid of a sitting Prime Minister.
But of course, there are people making those noises, and there are some people who quite like the job. There's two obvious candidates. Andy Burnham would quite well. There's many more than two. I was parking Wes Streeting for a second, because that's a given, because he's done a cracking job of saying, by not saying, that he really wants that job. So he's waiting in the wings. But then there's the Andy Burnham thing, and even Angela Rayner as well. I mean, would any of those, would that make any difference? I mean, it might do to certain people in the Labour Party who love either one of those two characters, but to the wider country, would that turn Labour's fortunes around?
No, I don't think it would. I mean, I think Keir Starmer is clearly not very good at politics, in the sense he's not able to get across a good and convincing message. About what he's trying to do, and someone may be able to articulate that better. I mean, Wes Streeting, I think, would be a much better communicator, but the policies wouldn't change significantly, because the reason we're in the state we're in is because the economy is flat. The Labour did, to be fair to them, inherit the public finances in a terrible state from the Tories. and it's going to take a lot of time to fix that.
There is and this is a slightly different story, but it's just worth mentioning this again, John, a sense that the Prime Minister isn't very good, or the government aren't very good at reading the room. And I think that's a fairly reasonable point or accusation to put to them. You think of winter fuel and farmers and a few other bits in there as well. But perhaps the most recent example, my jaw still hits the ground every time I see this, was the story of Abdel Fattah, the Egyptian extremist who was welcomed back into the UK. And of course, Mr. Starmer put up a tweet saying, "I'm delighted that he's back in the UK and reunited with his loved ones. It was my government's top priority." And after he put that up, a load of tweets suddenly came to the forefront. I know that most of them were written a while ago, but they were pretty horrific. No way around it. In any other situation, you'd have a knock at the door right now from Plod saying, "Hang on, did you write this?" What is extraordinary, in addition to all of that, John, is that tweet from Keir Starmer is still up there on his Twitter feed.
Well, yes, because it would be more embarrassing to take it down. It would just give the story even more legs. But no, I mean, it was a basic failing of competent government, that not to check the social media. Although, to be fair to the government, there are plenty of journalists around who could have looked up those tweets a long time ago. I mean, this campaign to release Al Fattah has been going on for a long time.
Yes, Priti Patel, and the press, James Cleverly, the list goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. The press has been piously asking every prime minister since Boris Johnson what they're doing to release this poor British citizen who's languishing unfairly in an Egyptian jail, and nobody seems to have bothered to have gone through his tweets until he's actually released.
But what we don't get with politicians here, and this seems to be a bit of a theme of mine, and I apologise to anyone who's fed up with me saying it. If you look at Donald Trump, now even if you loathe Donald Trump and don't like his politics, don't like the man, if this was in America right now, he would have convened a press conference, either in the Rose Garden, the Oval Office, in the press room at the White House, wherever, and he'd have got very, very angry about this. We don't hear that from our politicians. Keir Starmer's still got his... I mean, he could have said, "I've taken that tweet down now because I've discovered stuff I didn't know. This man's a wrong and he's not going to be here very long. I'm going to get this man out." Instead, he passes it over to the Foreign Office and Yvette Cooper. He says the tweets are abhorrent. That's as animated as he got. We don't hear the fire in the belly when it comes to these issues from politicos in this country.
No, we don't. But there are advantages to that. I mean, I'm not a big fan of what Donald Trump is doing to America and the American Constitution. I mean, he does seem to think that the law is an irritant, I'd rather have politicians who respect the law, even if it makes them uncomfortable at times. And I think Keir Starmer's in that position at the moment.
Let's move to this story as well. A lot of response we're getting this morning on digital ID. Of course, this was announced sort of, not quite, well, kind of out of nowhere earlier last year. It sort of just popped up, wasn't in the manifesto, and then there it was. And before we knew it, even Tony Blair was doing the rounds because he's sort of the archdeacon of all things digital related, it seems. No idea why. He has no base from which to talk, but other than his own empire, the Tony Blair, what's it called, Institute?
Institute for Global Change.
That's it, Institute for Global Change, which he's advocating. I mean, Blair is quite honest about it and says, "I think this is a great idea." Do you lose a bit of privacy? Maybe you do, but actually, on balance, it's the 21st century. Don't be a Luddite. Join in with it because it's the way every country is going. That's the basics of his argument. But there's a lot of angst against this, John, and understandably so. When you look at what it entails, this would be, for the first time in human history, a database like no other. And I know you can say, well, it's the 21st century, so these things happen. A database like no other of literally everything we do, spend, think, ailments, you name it, it's going to be there.
Yeah, I think you were right to describe that as tinfoil hattery earlier, Ian.
You think so?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is. I don't think actually the great British public care that much about this. The reason that a digital idea scheme is unpopular now is because Keir Starmer's advocating it, and Keir Starmer's the most unpopular politician we've got. Normally, if you ask people if they're in favour of of ID cards, they say yes. I mean, but they don't feel strongly about it. And Tony Blair has always thought that digital ID is the answer to all sorts of problems. It's one of the very few things that I disagree with him.
But he does, yeah. I mean the distinctions between ID, you know, I remember as a kid when we used to go on day trips to France with the school, because we only lived over the, you know, we were in Kent, so it was a regular day trip. It was very easy to do. And meeting some French kids from another school, and they had ID cards, you know. But of course it was a bit of paper in their pocket, and that's all it was, and there was a, you know, photograph on there or whatever. This is a whole different level, isn't it? This is, and when you throw in the mechanics of artificial intelligence and the way it can be linked together, it gives the government a very, it redefines our relationship with the government.
I really don't think it does, Ian. I mean, I think lots of countries have ID cards, and they're now digitized, but I don't think it's the answer to all the problems that it's supposed to solve. I mean, the reason Keir Starmer suddenly got excited about it was because he thought he could announce it as part of Labour being tough on immigration.
Yeah, that was a curious way to sell it, really, because there were a lot of holes in that argument anyway.
Well, it didn't work. I mean, you know, digital ID does absolutely nothing to stop the boats. I mean, the point is, if you have people coming, undocumented immigrants coming in, they can't get a job, they can't get a tenancy. I mean, landlords and employers are supposed to check whether people's immigration status is valid already. They can do that online already. Yeah. So I don't see what digital ID adds to that problem. And you know, otherwise, I think it's something that's happening anyway. All the government functions are going online, quite rightly. It's much more convenient, I think, to have an NHS app. And I think it's something that's already happening.
OK. The other point, of course, it's hugely expensive. So you might think right now they just stick it into the long grass and go, we just can't afford it, even if they do believe it's the right decision. John, thank you very much for your time. Have a great new year. John Rentoul, chief political commentator at The Independent, with us. He's quite relaxed about the whole digital ID thing. Well, that's on the basis that governments don't have bad intentions. Can you imagine Ed Miliband being given the data for your spending that has been able to arrive in the algorithm? Might not have your specific name on it, it might not identify you specifically to start with, but they realise that the UK is eating too much meat, which is a big area of net zero, by the way. It doesn't get talked about much, but for many people, many environmentalists, actually, what we eat is a bigger argument than what we stick on the roofs of our house or windmills in the fields, etc. So I just can't get my head out of I'm the last person to stick a tin-foil hat on. But if that data was available to the government, that digital ID, along with artificial intelligence, was able, they stuck if it was on paper, they put a new column in the ledger book, how much meat people are consuming. And they could have that information within a nanosecond on a database. Would you trust Ed Miliband to not look at that and then make a decision based on it? Because I wouldn't trust him.